2 is trustworthiness. An educator should exemplify honesty and integrity in the course of professional practice and does not knowingly engage in deceptive practices regarding official policies of the school district or educational institution. The educator must be honest and exemplify integrity in all of his or her actions. The educator should not knowingly deceive any school district, the State Department of Education, or any educational institution related to information concerning credentials, background information, employment, etc. Educators should also be honest when evaluating students or personnel. Grades and scores should reflect the actual effort given without inflation or unfair grading practices. It is unlawful to be dishonest about leave time, reasons for job absences, and educational content matter. And finally, educators should also be honest when required to participate in any type of investigation. Point 1. Ethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: properly representing facts concerning an educational matter in direct or indirect public expression, advocating for fair and equitable opportunities for all children, and embodying for students the characteristics of honesty, diplomacy, tact, and fairness. Under Standard 2.2, unethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: falsifying, misrepresenting, omitting, or erroneously reporting any of the following: employment history, professional qualifications, criminal history, certification or recertification, information submitted to local, state, federal, and/or other governmental agencies, information regarding the evaluation of students and/or personnel, reasons for absences or leave, information submitted in the course of an official inquiry or investigation, or falsifying records or directing or coercing others to do so. Ending of Standard 2. Brentley Middle School holds an annual reading contest. The homeroom class that reads the most books receives a free field trip to the Mississippi Children's and Natural Science Museums. After a student reads a book, he or she completes a book report and turns it in to the homeroom teacher. Each teacher turns in the book reports to the librarian for tallying and determining the winner. With hopes her class will win, Mrs. Creedmoor tells her students they don't really have to read the books. She instructs them to copy the book cover summary and submit it so their class can win the free field trip. Which of the Standard 2 ethical conduct examples does Mrs. Creedmoor's behavior violate? If you answered C, you are correct. Embodying for students the characteristics of honesty, diplomacy, tact, and fairness. Let's move on to Standard 3, unlawful acts. An educator shall abide by federal, state, and local laws and statutes and local school board policies. All laws, which includes federal, state, local, and policies implemented by the local school board of education. The educator should be an upstanding, law-abiding citizen who does not willfully commit crimes. In many states, codes of ethics are tied to discipline systems because educational professionals are legally obligated to the care to the children they oversee and instruct. This legal duty can be enforced directly by government bodies. The Educator Code of Ethics operates in inclusion of all other federal, state, and local laws and policies. Not limited to the commission or conviction of a felony or sexual offense. Conviction includes a finding or guilty verdict, a plea of no contest, regardless of whether an appeal of the conviction has been sought, or situation where first offender treatment without judgment of guilt pursuant to the charge was granted. Let's consider this scenario. Mr. Gibson was convicted of a felony for assaulting his girlfriend last spring. Is a felony conviction considered unethical behavior for an educator? If you answered yes, you are correct. Let's move on to Standard 4, Educator-Student Relationships. An educator should always maintain a professional relationship with all students, both in and outside the classroom. Standard 4 violation is often considered the most serious of the ethical infractions. The school district should report any Standard 4 suspected violation directly to the Mississippi Department of Education, Office of Educator Misconduct, within 10 days of the receipt of the information. Educators should pay close attention to what is considered ethical and unethical conduct listed in Standard 4. Any educator or administrator license may be revoked or suspended for engaging in unethical conduct related to an educator/student relationship. Unfortunately, the education profession is riddled with educators who consistently make the egregious decision to violate this serious standard. This violation not only has negative and lasting repercussions for the educator, but also for the students involved and their families. By the nature of the role, a teacher has inherent authority over a student, and as such, a sexual interaction between a teacher and a student represents a violation of boundaries. It is imperative that the educator uses his or her position of authority with prudence to ensure the safety of all students and never to take advantage of or coerce students into engaging in inappropriate relationships or sexual acts. Standard 4.1 Ethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: fulfilling the roles of mentor and advocate for students in a professional relationship. A professional relationship is one in which the educator maintains a position of student-teacher authority while expressing concern, empathy, and encouragement for the students. Nurturing the intellectual, physical, emotional, social, and civic potential of all students. Providing an environment that does not needlessly expose students to unnecessary embarrassment or disparagement. And creating, supporting, and maintaining a challenging learning environment for all students. Under Ethical Standard 4.2, unethical conduct includes, but is not limited to, the following: committing any act of child abuse, committing any act of cruelty to children or any act of child endangerment, committing or soliciting any unlawful sexual act, engaging in harassing behavior on the basis of race, gender, national origin, religion, or disability, furnishing tobacco, alcohol, or illegal and unauthorized drugs to any student or allowing the consumption of alcohol or illegal drugs, or soliciting, encouraging, participating, or initiating inappropriately written verbal, electronic, physical, or romantic relationships with a student. Examples of acts of unethical conduct may include, but are not limited to, sexual jokes, sexual remarks, sexual kidding or teasing, sexual innuendo, pressure for dates or sexual favors, inappropriate touching, fondling, kissing or grabbing, rape, threats of physical harm, sexual assault, electronic communications such as texting, remarks about a student's body, invitation to social networking, and consensual sex. Let's check your understanding of Standard 4. Mr. Harris has been the director of the Fairleigh High School Mean Green Marching Band for 20 years. He's proud of the band's annual all-superior ratings during state competitions. Mr. Harris believes being a part of this band is a privilege for any student. He is aware that upperclassmen in the band perform illegal initiations and hazing of incoming freshmen, but does nothing to stop this. Mr. Harris's behavior describes which component of Standard 4 unethical conduct? Mr. Harris's behavior consists of A. Committing an act of cruelty to children or any act of child endangerment. Ethics training. Think about Standards 2 through 4 and how you might address these ethical issues that are related to your professional conduct. You have 2 more recordings remaining for this training. After you review all the recordings, go to Canvas and complete the MDE ethics quiz. Remember, you must retake the quiz until you attain 80% or higher. You have 3 attempts to meet this criteria.